25 most tragic deaths of black celebrities in Hollywood. What if I told you that some of the greatest black artists didn't just die, they vanished in ways so shocking, so catastrophic that the world stood still? From cars twisting like metal ghosts on dark highways, to planes plummeting from the heavens, to explosions that shattered the silence of night. These weren't mere accidents. They were devastating moments that ripped holes in the heart of music, film, and black culture itself. Tonight, we take a haunting journey through 25 of the most tragic and unforgettable deaths in black entertainment history. Each story carries echoes of brilliance and heartbreak. So brace yourself, because what you're about to hear isn't just tragedy. It's the chilling reminder of how fragile legends truly are. Aaliyah, the final flight of the R&B princess. Aaliyah Dana Houghton wasn't just a singer. She was the heartbeat of a generation. With timeless hits like Try Again, Are You That Somebody, and One in a Million, she redefined R&B with grace, innovation, and soul. Her voice was angelic yet powerful, her presence magnetic, and her effortless beauty made her a rising star not only in music, but in film and fashion too. By 2001, Aaliyah stood at the height of her fame. Her self-titled album had solidified her as a global icon, and her haunting role in Queen of the Damned promised a brilliant future on screen. But that future was stolen far too soon. On August 25, 2001, after wrapping an exhausting video shoot in the Bahamas, Aaliyah and 8 others boarded a small charter plane, eager to return home. None could have imagined that the short trip would become a final journey. Moments after takeoff, the overloaded aircraft struggled to gain altitude. The engine screamed, the plane lurched, and within seconds, it crashed and burst into flames. The fire consumed everything, silencing a voice that millions adored. Aaliyah was gone at just 22. Her death wasn't just a personal tragedy. It was a global heartbreak. The world mourned a light that burned too brightly, too briefly. Outrage followed, as investigations revealed recklessness and negligence behind the doomed flight. Aaliyah's legacy endures, a symbol of beauty, talent, and untold promise. She left behind melodies that still echo through time, and a reminder that even the brightest stars can fall far too soon. Kobe Bryant, the heartbreaking fall of the Black Mamba and his daughter. Kobe Bryant wasn't just a basketball legend. He was an icon who redefined greatness. With 5 NBA championships, 2 Finals MVPs, and even an Oscar for his short film Dear Basketball, Kobe was more than an athlete. He was a storyteller, a father, and a symbol of relentless ambition. To millions, he seemed untouchable. But on the fog-shrouded morning of January 26, 2020, tragedy struck. Kobe, his 13-year-old daughter Gianna, affectionately known as Gigi, and 7 others boarded a helicopter bound for a youth basketball tournament. As the chopper ascended into the thick Los Angeles fog, something went terribly wrong. The engine roared, trembled, and within moments, the aircraft plunged into the Calabasas hillside. A fiery explosion shattered the silence. And just like that, the world lost a father, a daughter, and 7 precious lives. The news sent shockwaves across the globe. Fans, teammates, and strangers alike mourned the loss of a man who had inspired generations, and a young girl who carried his same fierce spark. Kobe's passing wasn't just the end of a legend's journey. It was a heartbreaking reminder that even heroes can fall, and that life, no matter how brilliant, can vanish in an instant. Rasul Butler and Leah LaBelle. Rasul Butler and Leah LaBelle, 2 bright souls bound by love, fame, and fate. Rasul, the sharp-shooting NBA star known for his precision from beyond the arc, and Leah, the soulful singer who first captured America's heart on American Idol, were more than just talented individuals. Together, they were a modern-day love story. Beauty, success, and devotion wrapped into one breathtaking union. But destiny had other plans. On the night of January 31st, 2018, that fairy tale came to a tragic end. Speeding through the dark streets of Los Angeles, their cars suddenly spiraled out of control. Tires screamed, metal twisted, and within seconds, their luxury vehicle collided violently with a concrete pillar. The impact was catastrophic. The car flipped, glass shattered, and the couple, once unstoppable, lay still amid the wreckage. When investigators arrived, the truth cut even deeper. Rasul had been under the influence of alcohol and substances, turning what could have been a lifetime of promise into a chilling reminder of how quickly dreams can die. Two gifted lives, one destined for the Basketball Hall of Fame, the other for stardom on the stage, were silenced in an instant. In the end, fate bound them together not just in love, but in their final breath. Their story stands as both a testament to passion and a haunting reminder of how fragile even the brightest stars can be. A love story written in the stars, but ended far too soon. Sam Cooke, the mysterious death of the father of soul, his final symphony. Sam Cooke wasn't just a singer. He was the heartbeat of a generation. Known as the father of modern soul, his velvet voice carried both beauty and rebellion. With timeless anthems like A Change Is Gonna Come and You Send Me, he didn't just entertain. He inspired, becoming a symbol of Black pride and the struggle for equality. At the peak of his fame, Cooke dreamed of bigger stages, bolder projects, and greater freedom, not just for himself, but for his people. But destiny had a darker script in store. On the cold night of December 11th, 1964, inside a small Los Angeles motel, the rhythm of his life came to an abrupt stop. The night erupted with shouts, then a gunshot. Within seconds, the shining hero of soul lay lifeless on the floor, his music silenced, but his mystery just beginning. The motel manager, Bertha Franklin, claimed she fired in self-defense. Yet the story never quite fit. Whispers of money disputes, secret dealings, and hidden enemies began to swirl. Some said Cooke's rising independence in the music industry made him a threat to powerful people. Others believed it was a crime of passion gone terribly wrong. More than half a century later, the shadows of that night still linger, haunting, unresolved, and tragic. But one truth endures. While his body fell, his voice never did. Sam Cooke's songs remain a timeless echo, a final symphony of hope, pain, and the unbreakable spirit of soul. Otis Redding, the soul that flew too soon. From the blinding lights of fame to the chilling silence of death, Otis Redding's story remains one of music's most heartbreaking tragedies. Crowned the king of soul, Otis wasn't just a singer. He was a storm of raw emotion and unfiltered truth. With timeless anthems like Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, Respect, and Try a Little Tenderness, he didn't simply sing. He reached into your soul and refused to let go. But just as his star reached its brightest point, darkness struck. On December 10th, 1967, Otis boarded a Beechcraft H-18 with his band, the Bar-Kays, heading for their next show. The night was heavy with fog, the kind that swallows sound and hope alike. Moments before landing, the plane's engines gave one final, desperate growl, then silence. It plunged into the icy waters of Lake Monona, shattering the peace of the night. Most of the band perished instantly. Only one, trumpeter Ben Colley, survived, clinging to the wreckage as he watched his brothers vanish beneath the waves. Otis Redding was just 26. Days earlier, he had finished recording Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, a haunting masterpiece that would become both his first posthumous #1 hit and his final goodbye. His death didn't just end a career. It broke the heart of an entire generation. A star so bright, extinguished so suddenly, leaving behind echoes of what might have been and melodies that still whisper through time. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye, the heartbreaking family tragedy that silenced the prince of Motown. He wasn't just a superstar. He was a visionary whose music carried the heartbeat of a generation. Through soul-stirring anthems like What's Going On, Let's Get On, and I Heard It Through the Grapevine, Marvin poured truth, passion, and pain into every lyric, giving voice to love, injustice, and the human condition. But behind the velvet voice and timeless hits was a man tormented by deep personal demons, many born within his own home. On April 1st, 1984, tragedy struck inside Marvin's Los Angeles residence. What began as a heated argument between father and son spiraled into something unthinkable. In a fit of rage, Marvin's father, Marvin Gaye Sr., raised a gun. One explosive gunshot shattered the silence and a legend's life. The home that once rang with laughter and music fell into haunting stillness. The world lost not only one of its greatest voices, but also a man whose song spoke for millions. That day, the rhythm of Motown stopped, and the world mourned the soul that once made it sing. Tupac Shakur. Tupac Shakur, a hip-hop legend silenced under the neon glow of Las Vegas. The man behind timeless anthems like Dear Mama, Changes, and California Love wasn't just a rapper. He was a voice for the voiceless, a street poet, and a revolutionary who challenged the system with every verse. At the very height of his fame, just as he prepared to release the Don Killuminati, the 7-Day Theory, his world became a storm of dangerous rivalries and rising tension. Then came that fateful night, September 7th, 1996. A black BMW glided through the electric buzz of the Vegas Strip. Inside sat Tupac and his friend, unaware that death was already following close behind. Suddenly, another car pulled up beside them. Windows rolled down. The night exploded. Gunfire tore through the silence, bullets ripping into Tupac's body. 4 of them finding their mark. Screams, chaos, flashing lights, and then unbearable stillness. To this day, the questions remain. Was it revenge? A hip-hop feud gone too far? Or something much darker? A conspiracy buried deep within the music industry and power circles? The truth never came, and the world was left mourning a legend whose story ended too soon. Tupac's voice was silenced, but his message still echoes, raw, defiant, eternal. He left behind more than music. He left behind a prophecy and the haunting question of what might have been. The Notorious B.I.G., the king who fell too soon. The Notorious B.I.G., or Biggie Smalls as the world knew him, was more than a rapper. He was the voice of the streets, the poet of pain and triumph. With an unmistakable flow and razor-sharp storytelling on hits like Juicy and Big Papa, Biggie painted vivid portraits of life, struggle, and success. But behind the platinum records and flashing lights brewed a storm. His fierce rivalry with Tupac Shakur and the East Coast, West Coast feud pushed him into a world where fame and danger shared the same stage. That storm reached its breaking point on a cold, drizzling night, March 9th, 1997. Biggie's SUV came to a stop at an intersection in Los Angeles. In that split second, he didn't know death was waiting just beyond the glass. A gunman stepped forward and unleashed a hail of bullets. The music inside the car kept playing, now a haunting requiem for hip-hop's fallen king. Within minutes, the world stood still. News of his murder spread like wildfire, paralyzing the music industry in disbelief. His death wasn't just a tragedy, it was the bloody exclamation mark that ended the East Coast, West Coast war. Weeks later, life after death hit the shelves, immortalizing him in sound. Biggie Smalls was gone, but his voice, deep, raw, and unapologetically real, still echoes through every beat of hip-hop's golden age. His body may have fallen on that LA street, but his legacy? It lives forever. Phyllis Hyman, the voice that soared, the soul that fell. With her rare, velvety contralto, Phyllis Hyman carved her name deep into music history. Her songs, You Know How to Love Me, Living All Alone, weren't just melodies. They were emotions turned into sound. On Broadway, in Sophisticated Ladies, she didn't merely perform. She enchanted, commanding every spotlight and leaving audiences breathless. But behind that dazzling smile and flawless stage presence, her world was quietly collapsing. The sting of a failed marriage, the suffocating loneliness, and the unrelenting pressure of fame began to devour her spirit. The stage lights that once lifted her now cast long, dark shadows she could never escape. On June 30th, 1995, in the stillness of her New York apartment, Phyllis's pain finally spoke louder than her music. Surrounded by silence, she reached for the pills that would end her suffering. A tragic finale written in solitude. Her final note, a handwritten letter trembling with sorrow, revealed a heart too weary to keep singing. That day, the world didn't just lose a star. It lost a woman who gave everything to her art and received little comfort in return. Yet even in her absence, her voice endures, rich, haunting, eternal. A reminder that sometimes the most beautiful songs come from the deepest pain. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix, the electric storm of sound who turned guitars into fire at Woodstock and Monterey, wasn't just a musician. He was a revolution in human form. With albums like Are You Experienced and Electric Ladyland, Hendrix didn't play rock. He reinvented it, sculpting a new universe of sound that musicians still chase today. Every note he bent, every solo he unleashed, pushed the boundaries of what music could be. But behind the roaring amplifiers and adoring crowds, Jimmy was fighting battles no one could see. The same fire that made him unstoppable on stage consumed him off it. On September 18, 1970, that fire went out. In a quiet London flat, the guitar god was found lifeless, surrounded by barbiturates, wine bottles, and the chilling silence of what once was brilliance. He was only 27. That day, Hendrix became part of the haunting 27 Club, a circle of artists whose light burned too brightly to last. His death sent shockwaves across the world, a wound that time still hasn't healed. Yet even in death, Jimmy never truly left us. His music still screams through generations, raw and alive, a reminder of a genius who lived fast, played harder, and left behind a legacy that refuses to fade. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston, a radiant star consumed by her own shadows. Her voice wasn't just powerful, it was transcendent. With songs like I Will Always Love You and I Want to Dance with Somebody, Whitney didn't just sing, she soared. She defined an era, a sound, and a standard no one could touch. But behind the dazzling smile and thunderous applause, her private world was slowly collapsing. On February 11th, 2012, the unthinkable happened. The world froze as news broke. Whitney Houston had been found lifeless in her Beverly Hilton hotel suite. The room told a haunting story: spilled water, scattered pill bottles, and the quiet hum of her own music echoing in the background, like a tragic farewell. The autopsy later revealed what her fans dreaded to believe. Heart disease, worsened by cocaine use, had claimed her life. It wasn't just the loss of a singer. It was the silencing of a soul that had once carried the dreams of millions. Whitney's voice had the power to lift hearts, to break them, and to heal them again. Though her light dimmed that fateful night, her music still burns, eternal, untouchable, and heartbreakingly beautiful. Every note she sang still whispers through time, reminding us that even the brightest stars can fall, but their light never truly fades. Bobby Christina Brown, the daughter who carried her mother's light. Her name alone carried the weight of destiny. As Whitney Houston's only daughter, Bobby Christina Brown was born into the spotlight, a living echo of her mother's brilliance. Even without releasing an album of her own, she radiated the same star quality: her smile, her presence, her unmistakable bond with Whitney. To fans, they weren't just mother and daughter. They were twin flames sharing one soul. But when Whitney's tragic death shook the world, something inside Bobby Christina shattered, too. Grief consumed her young heart. She tried to stay strong, but behind closed doors, pain and heartbreak began to take their toll. The pressure of fame, loss, and love gone wrong pushed her deeper into a darkness she couldn't escape. Then, fate struck with chilling familiarity. On January 31st, 2015, Bobby Christina was found unresponsive in her bathtub, a haunting mirror of her mother's final moments. The water was cold, her body still. Doctors fought to save her, but destiny had already written a cruel encore. For 6 long months, she lingered in a coma, trapped between two worlds, until her final breath slipped away. She was just 22 years old. Her death left behind an ache words could never fill, a sorrow that seemed to complete a heartbreaking circle. Two voices silenced too soon. Two stars bound forever in love, music, and tragedy. Whitney and Bobby Christina, mother and daughter, now reunited beyond the veil, their spirits singing together once more. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson, the heartbreaking final chapter of the king of pop. He wasn't just a superstar. He was a once-in-a-century phenomenon who shattered barriers and redefined what music, dance, and performance could be. From thriller to bad to dangerous, every beat he touched turned into history. The moonwalk wasn't just a dance, it was a declaration. Every stage he graced became sacred ground for generations of dreamers. But behind the blinding lights and roaring crowds, Michael's life was haunted by loneliness, relentless scrutiny, and the crushing weight of superstardom. The price of being a global icon was steep, and he paid it in silence. In 2009, as he prepared for his long-awaited comeback, the This Is It tour, the world held its breath. Fans were ready to witness the king reclaim his throne. But on June 25th, that dream died in a Los Angeles mansion. Michael was found unresponsive, his room cold and sterile, the faint chemical scent of propofol lingering in the air. Doctors fought to revive him, but it was too late. The world's greatest performer had taken his final bow. Shockwaves rippled across the planet. Fans cried in the streets. News anchors trembled as they spoke his name. It felt as if time itself stopped. Michael's passing wasn't just the end of a man. It was the silencing of magic itself. Yet his legacy refuses to fade. Decades later, his music still echoes from speakers, his dance moves still inspire awe, and his name still ignites emotion. Michael Jackson may be gone, but his light, that fierce, unforgettable spark, still burns in the hearts of millions who grew up believing in his magic. Prince, a name that once meant perfection, mystery, and magic. He wasn't just a musician. He was an architect of sound, style, and rebellion. With timeless anthems like Purple Rain, Kiss, and When Doves Cry, he didn't just perform. He transformed what music could be, breaking every rule that dared to box in art, identity, and freedom. But behind the purple lights and electric performances, Prince was fighting a hidden battle. Years of chronic pain followed him, a quiet torment he masked with poise and faith. To keep creating, to keep being Prince, he turned to powerful painkillers, the only thing that dulled his suffering long enough to let the music live on. Then came April 21st, 2016, the day the music stopped. He was found unresponsive inside Paisley Park, his once vibrant sanctuary now wrapped in silence. The piano still glowed softly beside him, illuminating a haunting scene. The scattered pills, the stillness, the legend who had given everything to his art. It wasn't the fame or the pressure that took him, but a counterfeit dose of fentanyl that stole one of music's brightest lights. Prince's death wasn't just the end of an era. It was a chilling reminder of how even the strongest souls, those who give the world their light, often fight their darkest battles alone. Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther who fought a silent war. Chadwick Boseman wasn't just an actor. He was a force of nature. From 42 to Get On Up, and of course, Black Panther, he brought heroes to life with a quiet strength that transcended the screen. To millions, he embodied pride, dignity, and unshakable hope for the Black community. But what the world didn't see was the private war he was fighting. Since 2016, Chadwick had been battling stage for colon cancer in silence. No public announcement, no pity, just relentless perseverance. Even as his body weakened, his performances only grew more powerful, filled with the kind of raw truth that can only come from pain. On the night of August 28, 2020, in his Los Angeles home, the warrior finally laid down his armor. The room was dimly lit, his laptop still glowing beside him, the unfinished script for his final film resting in his hands, a symbol of a man who refused to quit until his last breath. When friends found him, the silence was almost sacred. Only the faint ticking of a clock echoed through the room, time itself bowing in respect. The world didn't just lose an actor that night. It lost a king, a hero, and a soul whose legacy will forever roar in the hearts of those he inspired. Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac, a comedy giant whose laughter was silenced by a storm of illness. From The Bernie Mac Show to unforgettable roles in Ocean's 11 and Mr. 3000, he lit up every screen with that signature mix of raw humor, honesty, and heart. Bernie wasn't just a comedian. He was a force of nature, fearless, unfiltered, and unapologetically real. He had the rare gift of making the world laugh with nothing more than a look or a single word. But behind that sharp wit and confident swagger was a man fighting a private war. Sarcoidosis, a cruel, invisible disease, was quietly stealing his strength. Each breath became a little harder, each laugh a little more painful. Yet, he never let the world see his weakness. On August 9th, 2008, in a Chicago hospital, that fight came to its heartbreaking end. The steady hiss of the ventilator faded like the last beat of a jazz note, marking the final act of a man who had given everything to his craft. When Bernie Mac took his final breath, the world lost more than a comedian. It lost a truth-teller, a trailblazer, and a soul who turned pain into laughter. His absence left a silence that Hollywood still hasn't learned to fill. Heavy D. Heavy D, the hip-hop icon whose music once made the world dance, met a fate as sudden as it was heartbreaking. In the 90s, he ruled the charts with smooth-flowing hits like Now That We Found Love and Is It Good to You, redefining rap with charm, rhythm, and pure style. But behind the music that moved millions was a man unaware that his final beat was near. On November 8, 2011, after a long flight from London, Heavy D returned home feeling unusually weak. Moments after lying down to rest, a sharp pain struck his chest, silent, merciless, and fatal. It was a pulmonary embolism, a blood clot triggered by the journey that claimed his life in an instant. Emergency responders tried everything, but the legend's pulse, once the heartbeat of hip-hop, fell still. His sudden death stunned fans around the world. Heavy D's story became a chilling reminder that even the brightest stars can fade without warning. No matter how powerful the rhythm, life can change or end in just one unexpected moment. James Brown. James Brown, the godfather of soul, wasn't just a performer. He was an unstoppable revolution wrapped in rhythm. With explosive hits like I Got You, I Feel Good, and Say It Loud. I'm Black and I'm Proud. He transformed music into a movement, voice into fire, and dance into protest. His electrifying stage presence, fierce spirit, and untamed energy didn't just entertain. They empowered. But behind the dazzling lights and thunderous applause, James Brown was quietly fighting his own battles. Years of pneumonia and heart complications began to wear down the man whose music once seemed invincible. On Christmas morning in 2006, the world woke to heartbreak. In an Atlanta hospital, the godfather of soul took his final breath. Each fragile inhale echoed like the last mournful note of a lifelong symphony, one that had moved nations and redefined Black pride. Pneumonia and heart failure silenced the legend, leaving behind an empty stage where his energy once exploded. His death didn't just mark the end of a man. It marked the closing of an era. And though his body fell silent, his spirit still echoes in every shout, every groove, and every soul that still feels good because of James Brown. Aretha Franklin. Aretha Franklin, the one and only queen of soul, ended her remarkable life story not in a grand concert hall, but in quiet heartbreak and pain. Known for timeless anthems like Respect and You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman, Aretha wasn't just a singer, she was a force of nature. Her voice lifted spirits, broke barriers, and defined 6 decades of music history. She was strength, elegance, and soul itself. But behind that powerful voice was a woman fighting a silent and merciless battle. For years, Aretha waged war against pancreatic cancer, a cruel illness that stole her strength but never her dignity. Even as her body weakened, her spirit stood unshaken. Her final performance in November 2017, though frail in form, was a defiant testament to her unbreakable will, proof that the Queen would never bow to pain. On August 16, 2018, beneath the heat of a Detroit summer, the world stood still. The Queen of Soul had taken her final breath at home, surrounded by love and music. Those close to her said she would hum softly in her last days, as if whispering a farewell to the stage that had defined her life. When silence finally fell, only the ticking of a clock remained, each second marking the end of an era. Aretha Franklin may have left this world, but her voice, that thunderous, soul-stirring gift, will echo forever through the corridors of time. The Queen is gone, but her reign will never end. Roger Troutman. Roger Troutman wasn't just a musician. He was the pulse of funk itself. As the mastermind behind the band Zapp, he electrified the world with timeless grooves like Computer Love and More Bounce to the Ounce. His revolutionary use of the talk box reshaped R&B and hip-hop, inspiring legends from Dr. Dre to Tupac. But behind the brilliance and innovation lay a story that would end in unspeakable tragedy. On April 25, 1999, in Dayton, Ohio, the music stopped. Outside his own recording studio, Roger was gunned down, not by a stranger, but by his own brother, Larry Troutman. A single gunshot shattered the night, leaving behind a scene of horror that no one could comprehend. Moments later, Larry turned the gun on himself, ending his life and leaving the world in disbelief. What could have torn apart two brothers who once created magic together? Behind the rhythm and success were deep wounds, financial strain, betrayal, and emotional turmoil that fame could never heal. At just 47, Roger's life was cut short, silencing one of music's most creative voices. His death remains one of the most haunting tragedies in music history, a chilling reminder that even in families bound by love and talent, darkness can strike without warning. Dala, a rising force in hip-hop, silenced before the world could truly hear his voice. Born Roderick Anthony Burton II, he carved his place in the music scene with hits like Who the Heck Is That and Feelin' Myself. With a major label deal and an ever-growing fan base, Dala stood on the brink of greatness, until one tragic day turned his dreams to dust. On May 18, 2009, outside the crowded Beverly Center in Los Angeles, chaos erupted. In a flash of violence, Dala was gunned down during a heated confrontation. The sound of gunfire shattered the afternoon air, and as he fell, the world around him froze in disbelief. His killer, Aubrey Berry, a man reportedly owing him more than $1 million, pulled the trigger and fled into the night, leaving behind a chilling symbol of how fragile fame can be. Dala's death sent shockwaves through the music industry, adding his name to the heartbreaking list of black stars, artists, athletes, and entertainers, whose brilliance was cut short far too soon. They lived fast, burned bright, and were gone before their stories could be fully told. Each loss leaves behind unfinished verses, untold dreams, and the echo of what might have been. Which of these tragic losses haunts you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe as we continue uncovering the emotional, untold stories hidden behind Hollywood's glittering spotlight.